Okay, so I'm gonna make a little short video right quick about the whole fake school placement thing that I mentioned a couple times before. Partly because I have like some files sitting in front of me right now that go along with the whole fake school thing and me explaining what that actually means. And I really just need to get rid of all this stuff. Honestly, I'm trying to get rid of really any extra bullcrap that I have that I don't need for multiple reasons. One, so I can move to the next place. But some of this stuff I should have probably never kept in the first place. So yeah, this actually was a part of the what was I calling it? The abuse evidence files, I guess. Well, no, technically this is the files, and then there was the videos. And I think I started making this after the videos. I don't even really remember. My throat's kind of messed up though, because after I got my tonsils removed, I really cannot take cold air. So yeah, I'm gonna be coughing and stuff. Anyway, I guess I'll start here, but I'm trying to make sure I don't like show any names or anything of anybody. Which I noticed that the staff from the self-confined placement don't have their full name on here anyway, which that's interesting. But my mom got me put in that self-confined placement that was a part of Georgia's little Jim Crow sped thing they had going on. They have things like this. So you see homeroom, you see United States history, you see GSE geometry, you see human anatomy, physiology, you see physics. But the thing is, this placement wasn't for academics. And the staff actually admitted that compared to the usual fake school placement. So actually, I didn't have any of these classes. Because this placement specifically admitted that it was not for academics. And it was pretty much just like a punishment holding ground. Actually, the fact that it says SPED right here, I'm just not noticing that. Because I never really paid that much attention to this anyway. And so that's the thing with fake school placements. And they're not even always a part of the Cash for Kids system, or at least they're not always a part of the bad parts, because the American school system, in and of itself, is a part of the Cash for Kids system. But of course, there's the more abuse eugenics side, such as SPED, alternative schools, boarding schools, Catholic schools, military schools, stuff like that. Okay, what was I getting at? I think I was supposed to be circling back around to the fact that when you get put in these placements as a punishment, you're not getting to quote unquote learn any of the stuff that you're supposed to be learning in the quote unquote education system. And usually these placements will not admit that they're not really for academics and that they're pretty much just like some type of juvenile ISS punishment thing. Oh wait, no, I remember what I was supposed to be getting at. Not all of them are bad. So actually, now that I remember, I was supposed to be talking about the fact that I did go to this charter school once, which a charter school commonly comes in when a school, or at least in certain areas, when a school fails too many times and the school grade is like F for too many years. And so then that school is shut down and turned into a charter school. Although I don't really know if that's how the charter school I went to came about. I think that was just a school that they wanted to build. I think it used to be a church, actually. And so the thing about this charter school is that, for one, they really didn't have enough staff, and the building really wasn't big enough for all the classes that they needed to have. So I went there for the little bit of sixth grade that I did go to. or at least for half a little bit of 6th grade I did go to. And actually, I think I could find that paper. So here, this is really moldy because all the stuff got wet with my templated. And I don't know what, I guess that's a marker. So you can see here that, I didn't want to show names. I didn't know that was going to be on there. But I mean, it's not like they really did anything to me though, so it's whatever, unlike the self-confined placement. So this academy, quote unquote, says that they did somewhat have a music class though for a little while. It says they had social studies, science, math, and ELA. So I'm pretty sure they didn't have social studies. They did have ELA, pretty much. They didn't have science. And they barely even taught the math. But they did teach some of it. And I remember a lot of kids were I'm talking about in the morning announcements that we would have, where we had to sing this little Boule Freemason bullcrap every morning. Kids were talking about how they were leaving the school because they wanted something more challenging. And since this school wasn't actually teaching all the stuff, quote unquote teaching, because the whole education system is indoctrination, but since they weren't teaching all the stuff that they were supposed to be, a lot of people really worried about, like, what if they had to switch to a regular school eventually from this charter school? They wouldn't know anything. Or what if they wanted to go to college? They wouldn't know anything. And so that's the thing with these fake school placements. And they also fake report cards and they fake grades. Like, some people will get in trouble because their report card says 70 for a class that doesn't even really exist at that school anyway. But the reason they do that is because if they pass everybody, it's going to look weird. So they're going to give one person a 60 depending on how much they like them. As you can see, they decently liked me. But this was the point in time where I had these quote-unquote friends. And one of the teachers was really funny, and pretty much we told jokes all the time, but we also, I guess, we're all going through stuff, so we, like, had that humorous coping mechanism where we would, like, think about things that are funny and even just start laughing about that. But yeah, specifically one of the teachers was really funny, but not on purpose, and we would get in trouble for laughing at different things she would do and say. Pretty much everybody would, to be honest. Like, she'd have half the whole class standing outside as a punishment in the hallway. And I'm not gonna lie, she was hilarious, but from what I know now, she probably, well, not probably, she definitely has something going on because she was way too funny to not be doing it on purpose. And that's kind of another thing with the school system, is that situations like that, if you're in, like, an abuse situation, that'll be used against you because your abusers are always looking for something to use against you. But if you're in, like, a decent family system, you're not gonna have your abusers getting mad at you for laughing and stuff at school. So yeah, the point I was trying to make is that the school system and other branches of the Cash for Kids system just make things so much worse for people who are already in bad situations. But that's a whole nother video probably. So yeah, anywho, they fake grades. There was this one comment, I thought I screenshotted it, and I wanted to use it in the video, but I don't think I did, or at least I don't even know which phone it's on. It was somewhat recent too when I saw it, but the video was about this boy who the school passed him and they shouldn't have, either the school faked his grades. It was something like that. And so there was this one person in the comment, they were like, I had this friend who went through school being made to feel like they were better than the other kids and that they actually had a chance to have a future. And they were always being told about how good their grades were and how good their reading and math scores were, but they took the test to get into college and they failed. And then they were confused, so they tried taking the test again because they thought that, like, maybe somebody graded it wrong or something. And she found out that she was barely even on the 8th grade level. And pretty much that comment talked about different issues with the school system and their grading skills and even them just passing people. And what else was I gonna say? Oh yeah, and that kind of makes me think about the whole situation with like before the school system completely said screw you to me, and I would get the highest scores in the school and one of the highest in the state on all my integrated and the quarter tests. But honestly, I really feel like if I'm one of the few people in the state that can read, if I'm one of three people in the school that can read, that's actually an issue. And it's not about. I mean, I'm not trying to like what's that thing called? I'm not trying to like have imposter syndrome, but I just see that there's a big issue if only one person pretty much can read in the school. Like they can try to sugarcoat things all they want with that, but honestly, looking back, that's not a good sign. And one of the few people in the state that can really read and count, that's not good either. And I noticed that, like, in the Cash for Kids system, Munchausen situation, the few people that really even would go along with the autism label, because I know that pretty much none of the psychiatrists or anything wanted to. But looking back, I really just believe that's because, like, at least for Asperger's, that's not really a disability. And so, I mean, if they were to agree with that label, then it would have been easier for me to sue them for all the different things that they did because you can't. Apparently, it's only bad to torture people when they when they supposedly have Asperger's. So they were like, no. Of course, my mom still dragged it along, but yeah. So anyway, at least in the school system branches, because the doctors didn't really like the idea of me having that label. The few staff that would like agree with it, it was always for racial reasons, and they were trying to make it seem like it was just a miracle that I was dark skinned and could read, and so that's why they would agree with the label. Also, other than the fact that, I mean, if a mandated reporter admits that, like, if they admit the Munchausen on paper, then that would have also made it easier for me to sue them. And I think that's also why commonly, well, I mean, I don't know though, because I mean, at the end of the day, what I did realize is that quote unquote mandated reporters are Cash for Kids system staff, so they do pretend to like agree with stuff or they do agree with things, because at the end of the day, their job runs on your abuse. But I don't really know how much which label was used though, because like I said, there was 20 plus labels, and different ones were used at different times. I honestly believe for a lot of the little bit of school I did go to, it was usually the ODD label being used, but I can't really remember. And I wouldn't be allowed to go to the meetings to really know exactly what was being said, but yeah, I just noticed that like the doctors didn't like the idea of the Asperger's or the autism label, and would then one psychiatrist even said, "Well, autism and schizophrenia is the same thing." So, and obviously that's some bull crap. But that was also after he said Asperger's didn't exist anymore. But yeah, they didn't want to agree with the label and would pretty much get in arguments with my mom about that because they didn't want me to be able to sue pretty much. But then the school system, Cash for Kids system branch staff would be like, well, I mean, you know, black people and Mexicans usually can't read, so I mean, you have to be um, autistic or something if you're dark skinned and can read. So then there was that. But the point I was getting at is that, I mean, I supposedly was one of the few people in the state that can read, and one of the few people in the school that could read, even at the mostly quote unquote white school. So, I mean, I think that just says something about how the quote-unquote education system is set up. And I mean, they've been stopped teaching people how to read, and they've been admitted that, like, I don't know why people are still astonished that their kids can't read when the school system admitted years ago that they were going to stop teaching people how to read and spell. And they barely did teach people how to spell either. So, yeah. Hopefully this made some type of sense and I wasn't too all over the place. But this could be like a little part one at least of what I mean when I say fake school. So, I guess to give a summary, fake schools aren't always a part of the abusive branches of the Cash for Kids system, but they still are a part of the Cash for Kids system because the school system is a part of the Cash for Kids system. Some of them, or most of them I say, are a part of the little abusive branches such as SPED, alternative schools, boarding schools, and Catholic schools, and military schools. They're not really for academics, and you don't really learn the things that you're supposed to learn. So, like, if you were to get to go back to an actual school, you would have no idea what's even going on. In fact, I forgot to mention this one school, which really was a group home, but that's a whole nother story. And the building was from like the 1800s or something, and so it had mold everywhere, which contributed to my health getting messed up, other than the psychotropics, but that's another story. So there was mold everywhere, there was rats. There weren't rats everywhere, but there were rats. There were mice. I think there was more mice than rats, so that makes it better. There was roaches. The gym had a crack in the floor because the building was old, so most parts we couldn't even go in anymore because it was so ran down. Um, there were bird nests in the sink. The bathrooms didn't have stall doors. The toilets didn't work. The sinks didn't work. The whole building smelled like mold and diarrhea. uh, the carpet had mold in it, but the teachers would let us go to sleep. In fact, that goes into the whole fake school thing, too. Due to the fact that this placement wasn't for academics and it wasn't really a school, it was just where all the severely traumatized people go. Like, I personally got put in there because of, like, a situation, mostly behind my mom's boyfriend, because he said he got me put in there. Although he lies so much, I don't really know how true that is, but like, of course, everybody got put in there due to their abusers and their abuse situation, but I did notice that, like, most of the people in there, except me and a few other people, were in there because they were severely messed up because of their trauma symptoms. Others just because they were in foster care, and the way the foster care system goes, as I mentioned in another video, is that you're not allowed to, like, go to a real school. At least in certain states they do this. Especially in the South, you're not allowed to go to a real school until they really test your waters and see how messed up are you from all your abuse that you've gotten in the foster care system and before. And so they put you in this punishment placement fake school daycare thing that's not for academics. And you have to stay there for a year plus, until they see, do you fight people because of your trauma? Are you too quiet? Are you too loud? Do you joke too much? Are you too paranoid because of your trauma? Do you feel like everybody's gonna sexually assault you because of your trauma? It's things like that. And so the foster kids have to stay at schools like this for a year plus until they're allowed to go to an actual school. And then once they're put in an actual school, they have no idea what's going on because they've sat in these fake schools for no reason. Or for, well, I mean, there's really never a reason. These systems shouldn't exist. But, or for, like, severe trauma symptoms for however long they've been sitting in the fake school. And so, yeah, since we didn't do anything there, the teachers would just give us blankets and let everybody go to sleep on the moldy carpet. But yeah, that building was so old though. They had like one of those old space heater things. Not space heaters, those old heaters. The ones that, like, they're shaped weird and they're made out of metal or iron or something, and they get rusty, and when you touch it they burn you. And when you're close to it, you can get burnt. And that's the thing though. Like, I know the psychotropics, they, like, cause more issues and will, like, cause restless leg syndrome and actually cause behavior issues and stuff like that. But, like, even if somebody did lose their train of thought really easily just because of trauma symptoms and not just because of psychotropics, hopefully this is coming out right. Schools like this or placements like this will make anybody lose their train of thought and just not want to listen and just want to sit outside the school all day or walk to the farm. Because that's what I like to do, because they had a farm with a whole bunch of neglected animals and a whole bunch of neglected horses and cows that looked like they wanted to jump off a cliff. And I would walk there because there's nothing to do. That's the thing. You're pretty much sitting in a placement where you're seen as like, you're not always seen as retarded. It kind of depends. But I mean, well, pretty much everyone's seen as like retarded or disabled in some way. But some placements more than others. Like this specific placement, this alternative school, it wasn't like SPED. It definitely wasn't like the Jim Crow, the racial Jim Crow self-confined thing in GA, because there, like, they made it clear that you were in special ed. And yeah, so I guess this is a summary. Well, I guess not anymore because it's 21 minutes. So yeah, this is fake schools. They fake report cards and they lie about having classes and curriculums that they really don't.